webinars, and I think it is just a minute. I think it is asking me to accept the recordings. I've done that. So as you must be seeing this title called Chaska. So Chaska is in Hindi means addiction, and here it is actually addiction of leadership. But it is just an acronym also, not just the real meaning of in Hindi, but it is called as crossover hosted association for skills and knowledge advancement. So this is a free webinar. We don't charge for this, but we want to share knowledge for advancement. So we invite many a times. I do it sometimes solo. Sometimes we invite some of the industry experts in their own area and bring topics. So we had many people coming in last 3.5 years, and today we have Ravi Chatterjee, who agreed to give his time for us, and he's an acclaimed coach, and we'll talk about that. So, a brief about crossover leadership journey. So, we are a 8-year-old company pioneering in journey-based leadership development. So, if you see this slide, you can see two axes. One is the axis of the success of an organization. Other is the journey of the organization. So, if you look at any company hires people from all over the country or world, and everybody comes with a mindset, and then there is a hybrid culture that gets created, and you still get certain result. But when we do an intervention, we look at their mindset, we look at their abilities to change, and try to bring in alignment in their mental models, try to bring in an aligned culture that gives you a much more higher result than you would if you were not to do the intervention. And if you look at any organization, you would need three things. You would need customers, you would need talent, and you would need execution. So if you look at customers, the starting point is, how is the sales organized? Are they doing enough consultative selling? Are they doing negotiating well? Are they, growing existing accounts? Are they networking? So we have a journey for customer related programs. Then talent is a lot of managers don't know how to systematically develop talent. So we have programs like contextual leadership. How do you use communication to inspire people? How do you engage? How do you do career conversation? How do you give feedback? So these are programs on talent. And then last is execution. That are you just executing to your commitment to the customer, or are you creating excellence? So we have that. And how are you taking ownership? Are you handling stakeholders well? Are you building trust? As projects become more complex, you will have to have influencing skills, and as it becomes bigger, there will be silo. How do you manage cross silo collaboration? Now, for collaboration, it may succeed if you have central purpose. So we also bring in purpose in the journey. We look at the values of the organization. How's the current culture? Is it aligning to the strategy of the organization with an overall big picture and growth mindset? Now, there are many ways we do it. We've got offsites, we've got case studies, you've got mentoring, supervisor involvement. So any proper elements that helps us to run the journey. And then we have, sometimes we ask leaders to also, look at what people are saying about them. So, we have 360-degree assessments. From that, we start with coaching also. So today's topic is coaching. And while there is been quite a good big movement on coaching, I thought this would be a good topic to get someone like Ravi to really clarify what coaching is all about, the journey of coaching. And Ankita, can you just keep an eye on like where there's noise coming, and please mute them. No? Yeah. So, and then I think we have sales coaching, and then since we are dealing with human beings, we have this psychology as the base. So risk, Eric Burns, transaction analysis, and Adlerian psychology are the three base that we use. Yeah. And to do that, we have got this structured program where we have programs for all the four levels. We have got uh, four facets of leadership. So self is how does leader look at his thinking, his communication. Team leadership, how does he manage his team? How does he inspire them? Operational is about business numbers. And organizational is how does he look at change and how does he collaborate? So when the participants come out of the program, they are very holistic in the way they think. And the way it runs is that every month we have workshops and there is a dedicated mentor who works with the participant to apply it in real life, and then we invite the leaders to come and talk to them, and then they continue, and then we have a review with them. So as you can see, it's a very, very holistic approach of leadership development. And coaching is where today's topic is, and which comes here, which is for senior leadership. We recommend coaching with an assessment, and these are some ready-made programs that we have already built for so many years. And if an organization wants to start off immediately, I think all of this can be applied right away. So we have got senior leaders program, emerging leaders program, foundation, and campus. So these are typically for people senior levels. So the topics are change, agility, big picture thinking. So you can see the topics are very relevant to that level. So these are like there. If the client does not have a specific preference, then we can recommend this journey for them. Yeah, and as I was saying, over last 4 years, we've been constantly running webinars every 2 months without a single miss. And you can see, starting with emotional agility to talent management to tangible strategy to run tangible results to conversation intelligence. Incidentally, Ravi was there with me again for the webinar on conversation intelligence. So we back. So Ravi keeps, we invite him for doing webinars. He was there. You can see his picture here. And productivity is a fantastic module. So all these are available on our YouTube channel. So you can go to Crossover Leadership Journeys YouTube channel and you can see all these webinars, available there. This is a fantastic program on networking, and all of these are like in-house grown content. So we have not picked up anything from the internet or we haven't copied from anybody. These are all homegrown, created, and all these are available for you guys to take a look at and use the models in your organization, which you can use. Yeah. So I think this deck will. So we also have this WhatsApp group called Leadership Chaska. So I will request Ankita to also share that on the chat, so you can join the WhatsApp group because next month or so we are going to have a mentor working with you to kind of help you practice your coaching journey. So if you have any questions, you can ask the mentor who will post. And if you really want to have a conversation with Ravi, you can tell the mentor and they can connect you with Ravi one of the evenings if you want to talk to them. So that's how we have built this community. So we have got lots of people in the Chaska group. We don't discuss anything, no forwards, no politics, no. It's purely learning and development. So you will see some very valuable insights coming, some good articles. So you can take advantage of that, and that way you will not miss out on any webinar. And I have seen that
लोशन लगाया हुआ है।
people come, very regularly to our webinars. Today also we have got close to about 40 plus people coming, which is a good sign of constantly coming. I know a lot of people I see have been coming very regularly. So we are very thankful for all of you guys because unless the stage is there, the artist can't perform. So you guys are there. So yeah, so Ravi, we can get started now. I think people are really waiting to
Okay.
hear from you. Yeah, so Team Bios, Ravi and me, we are preparing for this webinar, and while we have our conversation thought through, but feel free to interrupt us or ask any question that is coming to your mind, and make it like a friends coming together for the conversation, not absolutely like somebody is going to teach you something. Yeah. So and Ravi's style is that only from the beginning. Yeah. So Ravi, let's kick off the
Yeah.
conversation. I wanted to just ask you this, that I think talent development has been there for
Mm.
so many years, I mean, but
Mm.
why do you think coaching has become like so much important today's time? Like, if you can give us a rundown, because you have been in this space for a very long time, so you have seen how the journey has, come to today's level.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's been almost a couple of decades and a couple of more years, then couple of decades that I have been. Just wanted to do a quick sound check. Is my audio clear to all of
Yes,
you?
perfect,
All
perfect.
right, thank you.
दिल को
So,
छू रहे हैं.
yeah, across different. Thank you, Yogesh. First of all, for having me on this conversation. Feel great to be here. I can see a lot of stalwarts, even from the field of coaching, like, say, for example, Vikram is here, Shailaja is here, Madhavi is here. And if I'm not naming others, please don't feel that you are any less. I'm sure you are in your own rights. You have experienced it, right? So it's a great opportunity for me to probably bring some of those perspectives down here. Um, a good question that you asked, why talent development has been something, rather, let me say training, or training and developing people has been a part of organization strategy, HRD, as we used to call it, right? The, the godfathers of this concept in India, the Deepak Parikhs of the world, and we have been doing this as a part of organization development, organization effectiveness, capability development. Give it different names, right? I mean, sometimes it has been owned by business, where they train people on a particular topic. It also gained a lot of impetus when the service industry started, because the service industries meant that you were quickly getting a lot of work which was not exactly being built capability for by the educational institutions. So, for example, when the BPOs came to India, not very many colleges were teaching phonetics or voice and accent or stuff like that, and therefore there's a large group of trainers and training professionals who kind of filled that vacuum, right? So if you typically look at a lot of focus in talent development in the late 20th century and the early part of this century has been on developing skills of people. And that's been the element. I mean, do you know how to do it? So there are lots of training professionals here who will bear me out on this. The typical journey is you do a pre, you dispense the learning, you do a post, and you try to find out how has the needle movement happened, right? Your 5 levels of Kirkpatrick, or 4 levels as you may end up doing. Whatever you do, that's the way the game continues. But over a period of, I would say, last 10 years, and I must say there has been a watershed moment, and probably if you ask me to put a finger on it, it's a little difficult, but maybe I would latch on to the pandemic, before pandemic, stuff like that. We are beginning to see that our skills are highly replaceable. So there was a time when skills were being replaced by one human being for the other. So an American who was doing a banking transaction, it could be done because of the arbitrage model at a lesser price by an Indian, and maybe even at a lesser price by a Filipino or some other part of the geography. So jobs moved beyond geographies. So this is how typically things kept on happening. But today, jobs are not moving beyond geographies. I mean, just think about it. How many times do you get to speak to a human voice, a human being on the other side, when you call up Airtel, or when you call up your TV service provider, or anybody for that matter? I'm not talking about answering machines. I'm talking about people really solving your problem. You need to order a checkbook. A human being does not really need to answer you. Right? Are you with me on this?
Yeah.
So what does it mean? Who's taking those jobs away? So anything which is scalable, repeatable, has a certain formulaic way of doing, can be taken away by a machine programmed device. Call it artificial intelligence, call it any other form of intelligence, but that is what it is going to be. Then how do you define human success? Automation. Yeah, you're right. That's the word. Digital transformation, automation, those are buzzwords these days. And every organization is trying to kind of piggyback on that. A, they are very reliable. B, they're extremely hassle free. You really don't have to manage a union of AIs, right? So or do a industrial action exercise with them, run a promotion cycle with them. So all those pain points of typical talent management thing gets segued out of the picture. So what is it that is remaining for us? So now that has brought in a very big realization for people. The holy grail of success does not lie in trying to become a machine. The holy grail of success lies in trying to become more human. Human beings will be left to do things which are more human. And I would say the biggest mistake any business leader is making or any professional is making is thinking that if I learn a new technology alone, my job is safe. Or if I bring in a new technology to my organization, I have a competitive advantage. My question, I might be sounding a little radical on this, but my inquisitive, thought-provoking question would be, for how long? Right? How long is this
You're saying that
investment going to pay off?
whatever you're like, what you thought that I could learn a skill, maybe not having a longer duration at all. By the time you really learn it, your time to move to something else types.
You're right. You're right. Skill is important. I'm not trying to say you can be unskilled, unschooled. I'm not denying that, right? But I mean, for example, today when you write a LinkedIn post, there is an option for us to rewrite that with AI. Right? Something as simple as that.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can create great slides with the help of AI. There are dime and a dozen ads on Facebook. Right?
Yeah.
So where do you spend your skill then? What is it that success will be looking like? Yeah. So what is it that we are expected to do? Who is going to earn the prime bucks? So that is where probably, if you typically look at the call from leaders and the call from anybody who's trying to engage with productivity has changed. So there was a time, when all this coaching and mentoring started coming in a structured way.
Right.
Thought process was, all of us would remember that Timothy Galloway's famous line that performance is equal to potential minus interference. And the interference was mostly lack of skill, lack of know-how. So therefore, now the point is that is gone now. I mean, we have leveled it out.
Yes. I think Ravi Harish has a very interesting point. Harish, I saw you putting the comment. But do you want to also share? By the way, team, those who have attended, Harish was our last speaker in the month of January when we did March, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Andrew Nog was supposed to be known as the father of AI. He made this statement a few years ago. That anything which takes less than a second can be automated using AI. But I think now, given what we are seeing today, even tasks that take much longer are being automated. So I think that's where what you're talking about seems even more sort of significant to think about.
Yes.
So if you typically look at that, and this has been an engaging conversation. So organizations, the focus of talent development then started moving to finer things like maybe employee engagement. How do we engage employees? How do we motivate them? And then one of my erstwhile organizations, which I had maybe the fortune or the misfortune, I would call it fortune, to work with Lehman Brothers. Their fall told us that that money alone or extrinsic factors alone can not sustainably fuel growth for a very long period of time.
Yes.
Right. So that made the focus shift to what I would call as more issues which Heifetz and Linsky and others now call as adaptive leadership or adaptive skills. Skills which are not technical in nature. So there's no clear-cut answer. There's no clear-cut starting point of I don't know, and there's no clear-cut ending point of saying I know because I have passed an exam. So those thresholds have become very blurred. In that sense, then what is success? It requires one to continuously live up to the expectations of situations, live up to the expectations of stakeholders, live up to the expectations of market, right? And create change. A great example would be probably Michael Dell. I mean, he acquires 25 odd companies, takes his company private by even, putting his house on mortgage or whatever, and then brings back the company again to public when he thinks it's an appropriate time. And we are talking about a company whose net worth is more than $50 billion. So it's not a small startup conversation that one is having. So if you see, and you can also see the same thing happening in our startup segment as well. People who thought that they have a great business idea, and that business idea alone will take them to the billion and then to the 10 billion, are faltering now because they have not taken care of those adaptive issues of, okay, what does the customer need next, how his own success parameter has shifted, why will people stick to you for a longer period of time. And then there are older organizations, very fundamentally strong organizations, say the Tatas, etc., who are still thriving because probably the focus is still on the human, the individual, right? So those are parameters which are very interestingly coming through. The success itself is getting redefined every day. The skill landscape is getting redefined every day, and therefore, how you prepare people to face the challenges is very different from what it used to be maybe just 3 years ago.
So that is where I think, Ravi, you think this whole idea of adaptability needs a very big element of the way mindset has to be addressed by leaders. So do you think, Ravi, it is something that it has to be done at a certain level only, or do you think it is required at all levels in the organization? Like, what's your thought on that?
No, I think, and okay, let me put it this way. Whenever we talk about the term coaching, it is, there are two kinds, okay? One of those very educated cousins of mine who ask me, and that happened to me very often, when I get through my coaching certifications and I tell them, okay, what do you do? And I say, I'm a professional coach. They ask me, where is your coaching center? And honestly, I don't have a coaching center to tell them where is my coaching center. That's one kind, okay? That's one view of coaching. The other view of coaching is, oh, this guy only serves the very rich people and has, lunch and dinner and coffee with them and spends time with them to make those people very successful. He is a Lucifer to those fellows, or whatever you might call Mephistopheles to those fellows. So that's the thought process that is there, right? He's a cherry on the on the pie of the capitalists. That's what my academic friends think about. But my view is slightly different. I think everybody needs coaching. Everybody needs coaching. It's very different to any other helping profession. If you look at the way this profession has developed over last 50 years or so, coaching is very different from therapy. And I'm not saying therapy is bad. I mean, therapy is needed, right? If you go to Otto Schammer's theory. He talks about that data that every 8 minutes somebody is dying by suicide on the face of this earth. So therapy is needed. So that is there. But we are not dysfunctional. That's nothing wrong about it. We are functional, but how can we become more meaningful in what we do? Because human mind is a meaning-making machine. If you are able to create more meaning, you are more engaged with your work.
Yes.
If you are able to do more, and at that level, it is not just the executive who needs coaching. Because why a person is not able to perform or not able to achieve what he or she is supposed to is many a time not because of skill sets. Maybe it is a thought process, maybe it is a belief, maybe it is what my good friend Madhavi has been calling mindset, right? Maybe it is the way they perceive things, they look at it. And everybody needs a coach. I have a coach. I think all of us who coach, one of the things that we learn is to pick up a coaching supervisor. We all have coaches. We all have mentor coaches that we go to. We should, right?
Yeah.
And there's no denying that.
Yeah. So Ravi, this reminds me of Atul Gawande in one of his talks. He talks about his own coaching experience, and he is one of the most accomplished surgeon. And when he was been advised like the way you are suggesting that everyone should have a coach, and he was very hesitant to have a coach. And the coach took a permission saying that, "Can I just be in your operation theater watching you?" And he watched that when Atul would do the surgery, his right hand would just go up little bit, and over the second or third operation surgery, he would actually start aching, and he would stop the next surgery. And the coach only said to him that, can you just after each surgery, just pay attention to your shoulder that goes up. And he started paying attention. And his number of surgeries in a day doubled because he was no longer having that, and which he could not see himself. For years together, he's been doing only 3 surgeries, for example. Yeah. So this, Ravi, brings me to a point that do you think there is a play of domain? I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
don't see
was,
the play of domain, but I wanted your view on that.
yeah. So, the point is, did Atul Gawande not know what is happening to his shoulder? Probably he knew. Probably he can diagnose. Probably he can correct it. He's a master surgeon. He knows the names of the muscles that are actually at play. It is not a question of knowing.
Yeah.
It is a question of being able to perceive it.
Mm.
Atul Gawande does not have a view from the balcony to see himself when he is coaching. The first thing that a coach does is to increase awareness. Awareness of the person, awareness of what is going in that person's mind, in the person's body, in the way the person picks up an information, works with it. There is a lot of, as and again, I come back to that conversation. As if you know the skill, you will be able to do it. But it is that awareness that makes that person excel in a certain situation, that view from the balcony.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity of attending one of those talks by Gary Kirsten after India did very well in that World Cup. Paddy Upton and Gary Kirsten in one of those corporate meets, and that time I was like, beginning to make my initial strides into coaching and grappling with this big problem of how much of a subject matter expertise is required for a coach, right? And the question that we had for Gary was, Gary, how do you coach Sachin? Because, he is no less a batsman than you. And his point is, well, I don't need to coach him on batting. Then what do? You are the coach of the Indian cricket team. I mean, what I typically do is I make some notes, and you would also see, all of us would see, Rahul Dravid, VVS Lakshman, they keep on writing notes. And so the question to me, yeah, what do you write there? So he said, I just write the ball number and the over number. That's it. So that I can get the feed very quickly from the uh, sports channel producer, right? And what they would do is he would just show Sachin a set of clips and then ask Sachin, hey, Sachin, what's going on? And in one of those situations, probably he said, I don't know where my off stump is. And then Gary would ask him, so where do we go from here? Says, you know what, I want you to get 150 deliveries bowled by the bowling machine in this particular 2-meter window on this length. And he practices it. And then the rest is history. He goes to Sydney, he plays that famous knock where he didn't play a single shot here and there. So that's the kind of work a coach does.
So Ravi, it's a human issue, kya? Like you can't see yourself many a times and
Indeed.
somebody.
Indeed. That is what mindfulness is all about. That is where self-awareness is all about. And in spite of the best things, in spite of all the mindfulness exercises that we do, we human beings have this limitation of the bodily frame that we can only see as much as we can see. There has to be another perspective. And that is where the coach comes as partnering in performance. He's a partnership, unlike any of the other helping professions. And, it would be good to probably talk about professions like mentoring, where there's a huge play of knowledge. The mentor knows more. The mentee, if you see my hand, the mentee, there's a power play there, right? Or maybe the teacher knows more and the pupil or the student knows less.
Yes.
Whereas in terms of coaching, it's more of a, partnering in performance. All that you're doing is helping the person find their best self in the given moment.
Yes. Very nice. So when you look at these coaches, like the example that you give, so like, are there any competencies that you would like to share with our audience that, no, I think, or maybe we can take a pause so far and ask people, I mean, is there anything that you want to ask Ravi so far that we have just covered and, I mean, anything that thoughts,
any observations that come to your mind?
any reflections, any thoughts? Yeah. Because we covered quite a bit of journey, from where we started as a journey of us seeing how changes have happened and how things have changed. So any reflections so far, I think.
Yeah, Sandeep has a question, right, Sandeep?
Yeah.
So the question is that most people who need coaching actually think they do not need coaching.
True.
So how do you kind of overcome that barrier?
Very good question.
Very good question. So one of the things that we ask them is, and this Sandeep happens very often to coaches like us when we are given to work with a group of leadership. And we ask them, why do you think you and I are having this conversation? Where do you think you can end up? Right. And some of the conversations also begin by talking to them about who they wish to be, who they aspire to be. What is stopping them from reaching there? What have they tried so far? Right? And obviously, they put a lot of blame on circumstances, on environment, on all of this, right?
I'm okay, you're not okay.
Yeah. I'm okay, you're not okay. And then we say, okay, what can we do about it? How can we go about changing it? And then there is this entire process of helping them demystify their own mindsets and getting into that area. So one of the things and one of the techniques that I use, and it's a very proven technique. Not that I want to go very deep into that in that sense. It's a technique that got used in. It started with therapy. Let me be very honest. Called clean language. Many of my coach friends here, like Vikram and Madhavi, would be probably doing this a lot, right? Pick up the language that that person is saying, right, and use that. So, for example, I don't think I'm being a great mom. Told one of my senior women coaches or my clients who I was coaching in a career progression thing. So my question to her is not, so tell me, what's a great mom to you?
Very
Where
nice.
would that come from? Okay. What are the attributes? Okay. He says, no, a mom has to be supportive. What is supportive according to you? So when you ask these questions, what you are doing is you are helping the person see their thinking. And also ask them, okay, so is there another definition of support that you have come across? Right. And then you kind of get them going on a path of self-discovery. And it is by their permission, the only permission you seek. And I'm also in trying to answer your question. I mean, there are so many of these competencies, right? ICF, the International Coaching Federation, has got 8 competencies. Each competency has got, 5 to 6 sub-competencies. And as an examiner coach, I also evaluate some of the other coaches who submit their recordings on those. The 2 key things I would consider is, one is listening with absolute no judgment or with empathy. And the second is staying curious, almost childlike curiosity. Take nothing for granted.
Very beautiful.
So one of these participants, just Sandeep, for you, said, I did my this program from INSEAD, this program from IIM Kozhikode, this program from this. It's not fair. I'm still not being promoted. I mean, so I said, okay, what do you mean by fairness? What is fair to you? Why do you think this is unfair?
Very nice.
You get me, right? I mean, and it's a very fundamental, ontological basis to get into that person.
Sure. So, Ravi, when you're doing this, have you seen the coachee getting very offended about this question, or they uncomfortable, or
uncomfortable is a good word to use. I wouldn't call it offended, because we do tell them, we do prime them that, look, my job is to help you see things differently, create more options. You have those options, right? And a very good skill and a very good, if you ask me, theorem or a postulate, if you want to remember as a coach, is, I go back to Carl Rogers talking about it, and it is unconditional positive regard for your client. You got to believe that the client has the ability to solve their problem. Your job is to only help them find that way. Yeah. Unconditional positive regard. If you don't have that, if you think that the guy is an idiot, don't coach him. You already lost it.
Sure.
Don't coach him. I mean, if you think that the guy cannot help, doesn't have the skill, send him to a training program. Fine. Don't coach him. Don't make don't try to still, live your contract to have those 6 conversations, make your money.
Madhu, please share. You wanted to share something.
Sorry, I was trying to lower it. I think very interesting observations, Ravi, there. I mean, the last point that you make, actually, I tell my people sometimes that we believe in the client more than they believe in themselves. I mean, we are still there. We are, we believe in them so completely that,
Yeah.
they start realizing it beyond a point in time. And one more point that Timothy Galloway makes, and you quoted him earlier. He says he was a tennis coach
Yeah,
before
yeah,
becoming a
real
corporate
game.
coach,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, what stuck with me, and I really like the way he put it, is he says somewhere the opponent is not on the other side of the net. Yeah, he or she is in your own mind.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah,
So that was a
Yeah.
very beautiful one. It sums up, where coaching actually hits.
yeah. Started.
Right, we have, it's completely, it's the essence. I felt it was the essence of it. I mean, we are
Yeah.
people who realize that, people don't realize that the opponent is in myself. So again, as a coach, we make them also understand that this is where you are stopping yourself, and then we are trying to help them break that for themselves. Again, I think in the beginning, like you detailed, and then the question Yogesh asked, why coaching when training was working.
Yes, yes,
Right,
yes.
training has been working, and why introduce something
Yeah.
called coaching? I think a lot of things have changed in the world, and it is like whether we tell them to do or we help them think themselves. So we add coaching to training. We don't replace training probably,
Yeah.
but in the ways. And a couple of things that I thought about was, for
Yeah,
example, like
I
Sandeep
know
has just
you
asked.
didn't you didn't stop my business of training, so I'm
No,
thanking
no, no. It is
Yeah.
everything has its own place. So Sandeep
you.
has just asked, how do you change your perspective of your clients if they are tough or if they don't realize that they need coaching, right? So
Uh,
these we often encounter these cases, like, for example, if there's a parent who brings a
mm.
13-year-old to us and says, please fix them. They're
Yeah.
throwing up problems. They just say, fix them. That's it. So there are many times I say, I need to talk to you, the parents, first. Right? There is no fixing happening there. There is a lot of environment that comes into place, and then more often than not, the parents are the ones who need coaching here. Probably similarly here, in organizations, it is not the employees or the team that needs, but it is also the leadership or the team leaders who also need to understand. In training sessions, we often feel, we also experience this. After the coaching session, end of the day or during lunchtime, they say, I wish my managers also take this training, they tell us.
Yes.
So,
So, Vijay, I want to ask Ravi one more question. So, Ravi, as I hear you, there's a lot of work that the coach will have to do on himself, and that is that the journey that the
absolutely.
coaching journey
Yeah.
being like. So, is it like from a just want to get people this clarity on the effort that you put as a coach on yourself, meaning to become a like I have seen working with you over so many years that the client who you start working with usually want to have continuation with you, or they keep referring more people inside the organization. So I want your help on to highlight this to people, the journey that you have taken to kind of prepare yourself, meaning when you said this thing that have an unconditional positive regard.
Regard.
What is the work you do on yourself as a coach?
The first thing is handle the curse of knowledge.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
I mean, allow me to expand this. I do a lot of work on psychometrics. I do like 19 different tools, your Hogan, Pappy, Belbin, MBTI, DISC, etc., etc. Right. As soon as I see a person uttering this, this is not happening. My knowing mind, my knowledge mind, would go and try to box him. This guy's adjustment is bad, or this guy is a D style, or oh, this is a typical introversion issue, and all of that. That is useful to the extent that I can diagnose, but that is still knowledge. That can in many ways cloud my vision from being a skilled helper. This is again a term that Carl Rogers uses to help this particular client of mine. So what if he is an introvert? So what if he is dominant? So what if he has a mischievous or a colorful, as one of his derailers that Hogan would say? So what? Right? So what if security is playing up as a need for him in his motivational preference index? Right? The point is, does it make this person uncoachable? No. Right. Now, when that thought comes to my mind, and this is my journey as a coach, okay? Others may or may not have this journey. I try to take that information, accept that information, keep it aside, and then start working. The other key thing that often comes, and this is a part of that same curse of knowledge business, okay? Since we coach a lot of people, I mean, 1,000+ hours of coaching, we would have been there, seen that kind of a problem before. So as soon as the guide starts telling the story, that story has already got played and we know what has been the repercussion. So to be influenced by that story and then ask the next question, not from this conversation, but from that past conversation, can be absolutely damning for a coach. What you're trying to do is, because and this is where we are not like a medical doctor, right? Oh yes, the last time somebody had these fevers, fever, sore throat, congestion in the heart, this medicine will work. So for us, there's nothing called a fixed medicine that can work. It's only for us to find out what will this person benefit most by, and who am I to decide?
Right.
My curse of knowledge should not make that decision.
Right.
It is my client who will make that decision where they want to go.
Yeah.
Right? And that is where coaching becomes very different from other helping professions. A mentor typically writes on his autobiography. He also does questioning. He also does listening. But there is this weight of his autobiography.
Right.
And that is why the person has come to him. Because this person has got a certain knowledge. A teacher also has got his, his knowledge base.
Yeah.
A therapist has also got certain frameworks in which they are trying to look at it from. A consultant is trying to vet this data with another data.
Right.
Validating, taking the industry knowledge. For us, we absorb all of that knowledge. And yet, in that 30-minute, we are fresh, we are new, we are available, we are neutral, we are curious, we are non-judgmental. And believe me, it takes a lot. We do a lot of work before the coaching and after the coaching to what we call as the term that has now got currency called decompress.
Right.
To come back to status quo.
So then it is quite a bit of constant mindfulness that the coach has to practice, because that one thing that you talked about, saying that story had played in the past, and your general tendency to go to that solution is you have to hold on because you want to value the situation of this particular. So every case is like a unique case for you. Is that?
And it has to be dealt in that spirit, Yogesh. Sorry to interfere. It has to be dealt in that way. Because I cannot. See, it's like even if you try to rub it, and you write with a pencil, there is a little bit of a trace which is left, right? So you got to actually take a clean sheet of paper. You can't think that, I've rubbed it and I have tried to.
Okay.
You have to take a clean sheet of paper and start working on it.
I think Prasanna had one. Prasanna raised his hand. Prasanna, you have any question for Ravi?
Yes, Yogesh. I think. See, I was listening to. I think on one hand, earlier we said that. See, whether we got to decide whether the person is coachable or not. Okay, and other side, we are talking about the curse of knowledge. We may try to bring in and try to be judgmental. So I believe so. As you rightly said, Yogesh, that there's a constant mindfulness that is required to ensure that. So basically my premise is that, okay, we need to apply that course of knowledge to understand in the first place whether the person is coachable or not. Only when it is clear that yes, the person really needs some coaching, that is when we need to start off with a clean slate. So please correct my point of view if it is.
Yeah. So I have a slightly different point of view there, Prasanna, right? And this is true. The kind of construct that you have is the way organizations or my brethren who are on the other side of the table would like to decide. Okay, who are the people who are we going to invest a coach on? How do they do that? That is the biggest problem. How do they do that? And that problem arises because coaching is still very, very cost intensive. To get a good coach, they don't come very, they don't come cheap. So how do you do that? And when you are saying that this person doesn't need coaching, how good was your assessment parameter? Because for a certified coach to say that whether EMCC or the ICF way or any other, call a person uncoachable is a big thing. All that we can probably say is maybe this particular problem that this person is talking about, we are not best equipped to handle it, can go to a therapist. Or probably needs a skill training. Right. But uncoachable, there is no psychometric mix in any instrument that can tell us that this person is uncoachable. I mean, there are other senior coaches here. Maybe they will bear me out on this. I don't know, Vikram, Madhvi, if you guys have come across anybody, any instrument which tells you how coachable this guy is.
So, Ravi, one other thing while we wait for others, and Prasanna also to further ask, do you then emotionally get attached to your coachee, or how do you handle it?
Okay. I'll be inhuman. I'll be lying to say that it does not impact my emotions. Right? I'll be inhuman to say that. Sometimes the stories that confidentiality is such a huge thing that inspires my clients or coaches to share their life stories with us. It impacts us, but that is where we have to get up, and each coach has his own routine of coming out of that, seeing that. Sometimes it impacts you so significantly that you need a little more time, you need a break, and you need to come out and think about it, right? So that is there. One of the biggest traps that we all as coaches in our early coach training used to fall into is when a person used to tell us a problem that we have also faced in our life. And we would jump to ask them, give them a solution that has worked for us. But that's not coaching.
Yes, yes. And Ravi, one more thing, while Prasanna, does it help? I mean, do you have any further question or and coaching?
No, I understood the message, Yogesh. I got it.
No, Prasanna, there's another thought process on that. If it is okay for me to address you directly.
Yeah, please.
Right. I am a big believer in what Angela Duckworth and others have been talking about. And this is a very nice counterpoint to this entire construct of war on talent. Right? We all talk about war on talent, right? We want to hire the best. We want to go to the best schools, A school, B school, all of that kind of stuff. So Angela Duckworth, in her famous work Grit, right, says often talent is overrated. It is not just that probably Federer was the most talented tennis player. It is the consistency with which they have worked on that talent. Right? I mean, I don't want to repeat those cliched stories between Vinod Kamli and Sachin Tendulkar and some of those others, right? But along with talent, yeah, you may have great talent. And at a point, like the growth mindset, etc., talking about, talent in itself can become a cobweb that you get mired into. What Robert Hogan and others call the fantasized talent. Right? I am talented and therefore this should come to me. I mean, there are guys here who are less talented, but they have the grit. They have the tenacity, if you may like, to peg away, to keep on consistently working on it and face 500 deliveries on that particular shot and master it. So talent at many a times is overrated. You know, that 9-box grade and that inverted L and sending those people only for coaching, right? So you understand, right? So there is a little bit of a counterpoint that needs to be placed in for those constructs as well.
Yes, yes. So, I think one last thing before we like really open up for conversation with the entire participant is about team coaching. I've been now hearing, quite a bit about that, So I think coaching in some extent, people have started to accept that it is a very important, help to leaders. And when you really spoke about the cost, Ravi, they don't come cheap. And when I look at the damage that people can do without coaching is much, much lesser than what a coach can charge actually. Meaning, if I were to look at even Atul Gawande's example, the 3 surgery additional revenue or additional money that the hospital would make or he would make is much, much, much higher than whatever he would have paid the fees to the coach, even if you look at the ICF standard. So from that perspective, I feel if organizations can understand the benefit of coaching, they would not find that fees to be really high. If you just do a real mathematical, calculation, the damage of people without coaching. So that I would rather, I mean, I know we have got a lot of end clients also coming attending the webinar. So it is very important for me to that, if you really if you calculate the cost of the damage of people doing without being that awareness, is much, much higher than the, cost of the coaching. Yeah.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
so
So the way I look at, and I'll come to the team coaching in a moment, just to take that Atul Gawande's thing and that you talked about. One of the typical things that as, coaching middle management, especially IT companies, etc. One of the things that I often find with technically highly capable people are, they don't care about these things like networking, building a brand, telling a story about themselves, etc. They find all of this very, very superficial. They find this very, for the want of a better word, very phony. This is something that lesser humans need to do for them. Again, their talent will speak, right? And it is right to that extent that they are very talented people. Probably they would like to invest time more on that. The point is, by not doing or not telling a story about themselves, or not being able to articulate their principles and perspectives, they are not multiplying talent. They are not allowing other people to get it. Right? They are hoarding talent. They are keeping it to themselves. In many ways, it is very important for me to hold up the mirror and tell them, doesn't this look like to you as being selfish? You're so selfish or so self-centered that you don't want anybody to come into that zone.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the opposite of imposter syndrome. Huh? They don't have an imposter syndrome. They don't feel that they are not adequate. They're so good that they don't want to go and talk about it. They don't want to strike a random conversation in an airport with a co-passenger or a fellow traveler and say who I am. They're very busy reading their paper or their book or thinking about some esoteric idea that must be there in their mind. The point is, Atul Gawande not only makes money, but is also able to cure 3 more people. And
Yes.
3 more people will talk to 9 more people. And out of those 9 more people, maybe another 9 into 9, 81 more people will get to know about this hospital. That growth in geometric progression is
Yeah.
going to cure diseases of 900 people in a year.
Yeah.
And many of them don't even need to come to Gawande. Maybe
Yeah.
there will be, doctors in his team, in his hospital and other hospitals.
Yes. Yes.
Go and get it cured, right? So that power of messaging,
Yes.
that in itself is something that is very important to be indexed. Now, coming to your question on team coaching.
Yes. Yes.
Team coaching, the entire movement of coaching was premised on a very Western construct of the individualistic way of looking at life. The individual capitalist thought process of rags to riches, how one person can rise from nothing to something, and the coach being the person who helps them.
Right.
Also, at the same time, a lot of coaching started with team, with sports coaching, right? So, in the recent times, many of us who are into coaching have started to see that issues are not with individuals, but in the connection between individuals. The problem is not what Ravi and Yogesh have. Ravi is good in something, or Yogesh is good in something, Sandeep is good in something, and Prasanna Moses is good in something else. But in the connection they have between themselves. How do we repair that connection? Does the coach have the capacity to repair it? No. Sandeep and Prasanna will have to repair it. The point is, as a coach, do I have the capacity to hold the mirror to them to see how the best symphony would look like? And that is where team coaching is probably gaining a lot of significance. When we start working with senior leaders, they say, hey, good, my team is not taking ownership. I said, okay, so what do you think will your team do if it were to take ownership? How would your team respond to this if this team were to be in the session now? And then it gives us opportunities to start working with the team, start curating a more open culture, solving those problems, creating unique value as a group, and stuff like that. So team coaching is a very emerging field.
Ravi, when I listen to you, one other thing I want to ask is that then the coach's horizon is even becoming much bigger, because earlier you were dealing with only one person and now you are going to process so many different things together with the person who is leading the team in mind. So it's like getting even much more wider and deeper in the way a coach would have to really process the whole journey for them.
And a great example is Bill Campbell. I mean, the famous book on $1 Trillion Coach. I mean, he was coaching Eric Schmidt and or people at Google and then people at Apple at the same time, and still being the chairman of Intuit. So you can see how, I mean, he in that famous book, they talk about how many things at Apple wouldn't have happened if Bill wasn't there, and many things in Google wouldn't have happened if Bill wasn't there. So what Bill did at many a time when Steve Jobs became too hawkish or became too uber competitive, which he was, is to cool him down, right? And at the same time, tell the Google guys, hey, come on, take it easy.
Hmm.
I mean, and the value that he created to that, that Los Angeles Bay Area.
Hmm.
I mean, one should just read that first chapter or second chapter where there is an obituary that people are talking about after Bill has passed away, and
Yeah.
all he himself was a not so successful American football coach,
Hmm.
um, a basic grad from University of Columbia in economics. Not really somebody who had super duper. He started his corporate career at the age of 40.
Hmm.
Just to kind of give you, I'm sure many of you would be aware of his journey.
Yes. So Ravi, as always, talking to you, just time passes by. Like we're already very close to closing the webinar. We're at 5:15, and typically we give about 5-10 minutes for people to ask any question. But just before I open up for people to ask question, one thing when you talked about this Intuit person who himself was such a successful leader himself, so somewhere do you think a coach has to innately have the liking for helping other human being versus taking up coach as a profession because it is like going to pay you the fees for your livelihood? So what is the balance
It is.
that
It is. It is. It is a very important thing. And I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, if you are into coaching because you see the point, they say $1 trillion coach is not because he was charging $1 trillion.
Mm.
They offered him stocks at Google, he didn't take it.
Mm.
They offered him a board position at Apple, he didn't take it. So it's not that he was charging $1 trillion. So there is a catch in that phrase. Okay, number one. Number two, don't be in coaching just for the heck of making money. One will make money. Sometimes if you give it for free, people don't take it. But as ICF itself says, at least keep your 20 to 25% of your work as pro bono. Right?
Mm.
There are people who probably see, Yogesh, we have been on many coaching assignments together. We start with, we say we get paid for 6, but we end up doing 9 in between. Do we charge for everything? There is so many times people call you up. I mean, Vikram is smiling away. I mean, it is not exactly, as if you are getting paid by the hour. I mean, if that is what is your goal, probably there are other things one can do in life. And there are so many other things, right? And yeah, I mean,
I think beautiful. So Ravi, we generally we keep like 10 minutes for people. So we are
yeah,
already.
you have a few hands going up already.
Yeah, I know, I know. So look, सवाल पूछ रहे हैं तो yeah, Vikram, please you can open up the first question to Ravi.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi.
I hope you can hear me.
I can.
As always, pleasure listening to you, Ravi.
Right.
I believe, sometimes you have this dichotomy in organizations where they say every employee is a leader, right? And then only the executive gets the coach, right?
Sorry, I lost the last word. So
And
only the
executive gets the coach.
Only the executive gets the coach. Yeah,
Okay.
You're right.
Then we have the HR struggling to saying, hey, we are all trying to groom leaders. So let's have at least a team coaching activity to start. And then, the whole approach to team coaching versus executive coaching is somewhat a diluted perspective.
True.
Right?
True.
And then how does one make a difference between balancing what one preaches and what one wants to achieve?
Right. This is a fantastic question, Vikram. And I think many organizations are grappling with it. I can talk to you about a client of mine that I have been recently working with. They are going through tremendous cultural shift, a large, for the want of getting into too, I mean, I won't just name them, but a large airline in India, right, which is kind of going through. And there are very few left, so you can guess yourself. So the point is, how do you create a coaching culture? Right? You don't have to be a certified coach to coach, right? You can have a coach-like conversation. Two things, right?
True.
Non-judgmental, empathetic listening. curious question. So at Crossover, we do this. In many other places, I have not seen such an impetus on that. But leaders have to have the capacity to coach. They should know when to coach. They should be able to identify what Sir John Whitmore would have called the coaching moment. So it's a skill, right? I mean, typically, Vikram, why do we promote somebody to become a manager? Because he's good at his job as an individual contributor. And that is again another of those biggest mistakes we make. Because what got him here won't get him there. Like Mr. Goldsmith would say, right? So it won't get him there. So what would you do with him? So his skills have changed. Now, what is his new skill? His skill is the ability to treat his team member with unconditional positive regard.
Yes.
He needs to imbibe that emotional capacity, create that container. And it's a hard march. Everybody doesn't make a good captain. You know, excellent players haven't made good coaches. Lalchand Rajput was not a very celebrated cricketer. You know what I mean.
True.
So, to that extent, I understand. If you are using team coaching as a dilution, in fact, we don't call it even team coaching. Let's call it group coaching.
Group coaching, yeah.
There is a difference between team coaching and group coaching. Right? Teams have a very clear agenda, a very clear identity, a very clear way to go forward. Right? But if there are individuals who are going through this process of norming, forming, storming, as we call it, that's group coaching. That's not team coaching.
True.
Right. So they're two very different worldviews altogether. Yeah?
Thanks, Ravi.
Right.
Very nice. Yeah. Sandeep, you want to ask any question?
Yeah, I was a little curious. So, Dr. Chatterjee, after paying you the fabulous fees which a coach always gets, do your clients also expect you to mentor them?
I mentor coaches.
Oh, you mentor coaches. Wow. Okay.
I mentor coaches.
Okay.
I don't mentor. I don't think what is my capability, Sandeep? My capability is coaching, training. So I can mentor trainers, facilitators, coaches, L&D guys. I don't have the subject matter expertise to mentor anybody else.
But the client expects you to be omnipotent.
Well, I tell them that I cannot be your mentor. Please don't expect me to mentor.
Okay, so you kind of draw a line
and
say, thus far and no further.
Thus far and no further. I cannot do this.
Okay.
I cannot do this. I mean, sometimes, of course, Sandeep, having said that, do we give them an access to our network? Maybe put a word to somebody who can mentor them?
Sure.
Of course, that comes as a, the extra topping.
Sure.
Also, my experience has been that, when say Ravi is coaching, and what I've seen in the thing is that they're starting to realize that I think they can find a lot of answers themselves, and they really don't want to even get mentored, actually. I mean, that's the real, transformation that ideally the coaching should lead to. That they should not say that I want a mentor anymore, because they think I'm my own mentor type and I'll figure out my own answers.
Sure. So Ravi made a very interesting point that the subject matter expertise may not lie with the coach. It's very rare for that to happen. And then, of course, you access other bodies of knowledge to get that aspect in. Got it. Thank you so much. Wonderful session, Dr. Chatterjee.
I know, and
Thank you.
So generally सेशन जब आपको घड़ी देख के लगता है कि बस अभी टाइम हो गया, बट अभी तक
घड़ी तो देखा ही नहीं ना, घड़ी खोला ही नहीं हमने.
like 5:20 हो चुके हैं. Hi Prasanna.
Yes. I don't know. There are many Prasanna, so I think you're calling out my name.
Prasanna Moses. Yes.
So Ravi, my comment was that a lot of times coaches, as coaches, we have the temptation to give answers, like give the solution, because we've seen so many similar situations. The temptation is to give out a solution, because that's like kind of pushing you, like the answer, and so you want to give that. But even coaching senior executives, when I watch them talking to their teams, it appears like they are in the same mode. They're in the same mode of, let's get on with the business. Here's what you have to do. Take this solution and get it implemented, etc. Very few actually practice the method of questioning. Asking questions and gleaning out the options and then throwing those options out and saying, which one do you think will work best for your situations? So this, I think, is a temptation that, as a coach, we need to be very conscious of and very aware of, and really pull ourselves back when we want to do that. I just wanted to share my experience.
Absolutely. And I'll take it a step forward, at the cost of sounding brash. Okay. A lot of senior executives retire, and then just like probably, their retirement option is to become a coach. And they call themselves coaches. I have no problem with that. But are they coaching? Is the only question I want to ask them. They're not coaching. Most of them are not coaching. They are mentoring, they are consulting, they are teaching, they are guiding, they are helping, they are building more profitability. They can be absolutely useful. I'm not denying that. But they are not coaching. The ability of a coach is to use silence as a vehicle to create new realities.
Absolutely agree.
Sometimes the best question is to not ask that question and let it emerge. And believe me, while I say this, I would say I'm not more than 70% proficient in holding that space. Because that is the journey that I am on. And maybe people are there who are much better in doing that. Right? So they're not coaching. That's my point. Right? And the counterproductive thing that happens is, in the market, when we try to go out, they expect the same from us. And you have to say that, you know what, I'm not such a well-endowed coach, if you still use that term. Right? I have different gifts to give you or share with you.
Thanks, Ravi.
Good. So team, thank you so much for joining. And some of you have been coming every month, every bi-monthly. I really want to thank. I'm not calling out names. I might miss out on some people, but really thank you. It encourages us to keep running this bi-monthly webinar, because getting 40-50 people every bi-monthly is not an easy thing. So I really want to thank all of you. And like we do this webinar to spread awareness about our journey model, about our coaching. So if you come across any client, or if in your own organization you want, you can reach out to Ravi, you can reach out to Ridhima, who's been sending mailers, and tell us how can we help you. Yeah, and we will next 2 months be sending lots of good articles, some of the books that we give. Like internally, Ravi guides us on a lot of content. So we take his help to also share with you some of the books that he referred in the conversation. So you can read them, you can post your thoughts, you can ask the mentor if there is any question you want to ask. Yeah, Yogini will be the mentor who will be doing that. So you can get in touch with Ravi and she can help set up time with Ravi. Yeah. So Ravi, before we close, any closing remarks that you want to give?
No, welcome. I mean, anybody who wants to experience coaching, maybe the best thing that I can offer you is maybe first 45-minute coaching sessions, right? Absolutely no charges. Feel free to come and experience it. The moment you experience, right, the proof of the pudding lies in the taste, right? So taste it.
Yes. Hi, Vikram.
I'm the first one who would like to get coached.
Vikram, you're setting me up, huh?
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
Absolutely, it will be an honor, Vikram, to have any conversation with you.
Sure.
विक्रम दाल मखनी और पनीर के साथ में करोगे तो मैं भी आऊंगा.
तब कोचिंग कहाँ होगी?
कोचिंग कहाँ होगी? पहले करके फिर शुरू करेंगे.
मेरे साथ तो नहीं होगी भाई.
Right.